welcome back to All For United WFC. Well, the dress rehearsal went well, didn't it, for the cup final? For those of you wondering, obviously, in the title, United 2, Spurs 2. Has that dented anyone's confidence? We're going to get into all of that as we talk, obviously, about the game and the league form. We've got a lot to get into. It is now going to be officially our lowest points tally in the WSL. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. God knows where we're going to finish in the WSL. We're 4th, 5th, or 6th now because Spurs are now 3 behind us with a game in hand. So we may end up dropping down to 6th this season, which is mental when we say it like that. So we're going to get into all that. Obviously, talk about player of the matches and some stand-up performances that we, to be fair, there's a few that were actually pretty decent yesterday. So we're going to get into all of that. Look at this little panel. Jess and Polly both haven't been on the channel for quite a while. Obviously, Jess, you would have seen on the Wofa channel a lot, and I think Polly, your last appearance would have been on the Wofa channel as well. So it's been a while to have you back on this side of the on the channel. So great to have you both on. Jess, I'll come to you first then in terms of just initial thoughts of the game. So we're going to get into the specifics and obviously the goals and what went wrong and whatever else. But just are you surprised by that, in terms of how the game went? Was it what you thought was going to happen? What's your thoughts on it so far?
I think it's difficult to not be pretty disappointed from a United perspective about that game. Having watched the game, I think that the result was fair, but going into that last game of the season at LSV, whilst Spurs have been a fantastic side this season, there is no reason really why we should be dropping points to them, especially at home. So I think overall, for me, fairly disappointing really, but by the end of the game, there was also just a huge sense of relief that we even managed to get a single point, because we really did kind of pull that out of the bag in the last couple of minutes. Overall, just disappointed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think just evening to you, by the way, positive time, or Mike. It was good to meet you finally yesterday. Confused me when you came over the first time. I was like, I don't know who this is. But yes, thanks for coming over and saying.
Were you puzzled?
Quite literally. I was. And it was early in the morning as well, to be fair. So, I wasn't fully awake at that point. But Polly, obviously you were stood with me. I said it like in the first half. I'm not too annoyed, but as you would have heard, I got more annoyed as the game went on, especially in that second half. I mean, how did you kind of see it? Because I don't know. Do you think that's about right? Do you think it's expected? What do you think on the game?
It was a bit of a weird game because it ended up being quite a dull one, I guess, until like the last few minutes when there was the equalizer. I think when it's kind of a preview for a final, it's always going to be a strange one. And in a way, obviously, yes, both sides drop points, but I think it's almost the best result psychologically going into the final because you haven't got one team. For example, United didn't absolutely thrash Spurs and are now really overconfident heading into the final. But at the same time, United proved that they could step up in those moments and say, for example, they needed an equaliser at Wembley. Well, May Letizia can do that for you. So in a way, I think, yes, points were dropped, but actually, if United had gone and thrashed Spurs 5-0 or the other way around, I don't think that would be very good psychologically for either side heading into such a big event where actually, I suppose United have the upper hand. They played in the FA Cup final last year, but either team are particularly experienced in those big moment games.
No, it's a fair point. I think everyone would have said, obviously, I think I've just brought the comment up saying this is, I think it was Emily just this is a bit anticlimactic after last week. It was always going to be a bit anticlimactic. I didn't think it was going to be this much of a drop, though, because I did expect us to win this weekend. And we did say, I think it was you, was it you, Barry, that said it might be a bit of a dull game, or was it me on the preview? It might have been me. One of us definitely said it.
What happened 10 minutes ago, Connor?
It might have been me then. But, saying that, this game, it's not really, because no team's going to really want to show their hand too much ahead of the final and that kind of thing. Was it how you thought it was going to play out, and what did you think on it overall?
I do recall having that part of the conversation, saying that, like you say, neither side would really want to show too much because it gives opportunities for surprise. It's a bit like, for me, a boxing match. When you get the first few rounds of a boxing match, what you will generally tend to see is that the boxers are sort of testing each other out and seeing what they've got. They don't go full pelt immediately. They want to kind of see what's going on, so that later on in the match they're able to knock some people down. I kind of feel like that's where we were yesterday. It was a bit of feeling out. I don't know. Did Mark Skinner decide that we sort of go backwards, for want of a better term, in order to ensure that we can properly hijack Tottenham and catch them on the sort of unaware at Wembley? Maybe. Was it just a bit of after the Lord Mayor's show, to have such a high of the win against Chelsea that actually it was just one of those where anything was going to feel like less than when it came to this game, because you were never going to get the same sort of feeling this week as we had last week. I think there was probably numerous things that went towards it. So was it what I expected? I think so. I was expecting a tight game. I wasn't expecting either side to run away with it. Did I think it was going to be 2-2? No. Did I think we'd still win it? Just. In the end, it was one of those where, we got the draw. And I think we just kind of need to be pleased that we got that. Ordinarily, get a last-minute equaliser like that, you'd probably feel quite content. It's interesting that we've had that last-minute equaliser and people are not necessarily as happy as they could be.
No, it's certainly interesting. Yeah, because I can't remember what we said on the show. Again, I can't remember which one of us it was. One of us definitely went for 2-1. So a narrow victory for either side. Yeah, I agree. I just think it just... To me, I said it on a TikTok earlier, it just felt like a very United WSL performance this season. It was very much of what we've seen all season, particularly at home. We think of Leicester and Liverpool and these types of games. It felt very much like that. And even the games we've won, I've said this, where we just get a goal and just sit on it and try and... I don't know, but... There's a lot. Just very quickly before I come to your comments about the lineup and things like that, Polly, what's going on here? Have you done another? I'm assuming this is your cricket podcast. Erling is referring to there.
Yeah, I apologise that you've had to listen to me all day, because that was like an hour-long podcast as well. So, yeah, here all week.
There you go. So you can plug that at the end of the show, because you do have various other things that you do as well as occasionally hopping on here as well. So there's a lot of talk about the lineup. So we'll do that, obviously, because we'd like to do things in chronological order. I will say, because I did tweet it, obviously, at the time, people talking about why Hannah was on the bench. There was a slight knock, which is why she didn't play the first 45. But as we all saw, she came on the second half and looked fine. So it was clearly a very, very minor one, and just a precaution as to why Evans was starting at left back. But Jess, were you pretty happy to see? I guess obviously Evans, like I said, it was kind of enforced really with the Blundell kind of knock. But Malard and Keats came in. No Jay starting again. That was the interesting one for me. I thought we may have seen her start. Obviously, she came on, so that's more than last week, but she didn't start this one.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a strange one. Don't really know what's going on there. I think there's probably more that sort of meets the eye. But generally speaking, obviously, with Blundell picking up a little knock or something like that, I wasn't too concerned with the lineup. And whilst it was a shame not to see Jace, it does give Melvine kind of a chance to start. And I thought she was fantastic this game. In fact, I just love her, to be honest. I hope, and I think a lot of United fans do, that we sign her on a permanent, basically, because she has got to be one of my favourite loan players that I think I've ever seen at the club, for like the men and the women. I just think she fits in with the team so well. She seems like, it's like she's just a United fan, to be honest. She just seems like red through and through. It's really funny the way she like interacts with everyone. I think she's just absolutely class. So to be honest, I was kind of really, really happy to see her in the team. So yeah, overall, no real issues with the lineup. Obviously, would have probably preferred to see Blundell start, but you can't help injuries and things like that. So I thought when we lined up, it looked like a pretty strong squad, to be honest.
I definitely want to come back to Malard, because there's a lot of obviously talk about her as we get towards the end of the season. Fun fact that she's only behind Rachel Williams. Most goals per 90 minutes she's on, because she's played, I think it's like 600 minutes, which is like well over half of most of the rest of the squad. Yet she's our second top scorer in the WSL with 5 already. So I think that tells you everything about how good she's been, certainly in the league. Polly, obviously the lineups came out. Was it kind of how you thought it was going to be? Like I said, the Evans won his interest. Obviously, it's kind of enforced really on that one. Sean's obviously not very happy. I didn't think he would. I've lost his comment though. Wasn't very happy with it. There we go. Evans not a left back. I want to come back to Evans though, Sean, because I'm going to be bigging her up because I actually thought she was quite good in the game. But yeah, Polly, obviously Jace didn't start, but it was Malard and Keats. That kind of what you thought was going to happen?
To be fair, I feel like Mark Skinner is a little bit unpredictable this season, particularly with like the front three. He just changes it up all the time. But I was really glad to see Malard starting. I'm a big fan of her. I think the way she's kind of grown into her place at United this season on loan has been fantastic. And I think United would make a very big mistake in not signing her. Obviously, I know there's a lot that goes on with that sort of thing. So whether that's possible, I don't know. But yeah, as Jess mentioned, she, the way she interacts, like celebrates with the fans, things like that. Her celebration from that goal was just amazing. She did like 5 different celebrations, and it was right in front of us as well. So that was really nice to see. And as you mentioned, Gemma Evans, I'm not always her biggest fan, but honestly, I was very, very impressed with her yesterday, and just thought she looked a lot more comfortable than she normally does, because it does feel like she's sometimes, obviously, Sean mentioned about being out of position, but she just doesn't always look like she quite belongs. But it felt like yesterday she knew what she was doing, she was confident, and then obviously got the assist as well.
So I was putting the player of the match poll in the chat while you were saying that. So yeah, the player of the match poll is in the chat. So you can go and vote on that one. Everyone's got a vote already. Love it. Right from the off, straight away. It's only been in there about 10 seconds and everyone's got a vote already. So you can go and vote on that one. Evans, Mallard, who else will put on there? Letitia and Zalem are your 4 choices for this week. But again, you can disagree with those 4. It's literally the 4 names we put on there. We'll come back to it at the end and you can tell us who else you would have gone for on that one. As people have already pointed out, I want to come back to Mayer playing in midfield as well, because that's definitely a talk about. I think I tweeted that after like 25 minutes. It was very obvious that we were playing almost like a back 3 and Mayer was playing in like a centre defensive midfield when we had the ball. So we'll come back to that in just a second. But yeah, Barry, are you pretty happy with the lineup? As I said, Mallard's our second top scorer in the league. Paris is our top scorer in the league. So, those two are not exactly 2 bad players to bring into the side, is it?
No, I mean, first of all, what I would like to say is I don't think anybody has really felt panic like it when you hear someone stop talking and you are not on the StreamYard page. Like, it's up there with dropping your mobile phone from about 7 foot high and wondering what it's going to be like when it hits the floor, because you can't catch it. It is horrific. Plus, you've got to unmute as well. That's not great. I'd also like to point out I had 0 input into player of the match before anybody starts coming at me for that. It's not me. Leave me alone. With regards to the lineup, I can't say I was delighted. I'm bored of talking about him. I'm just bored of talking about the decisions he's making. I really am, because I can't fathom it. I can't work out what he's trying to do. I'm baffled, consistently baffled. Yes, Gemma Evans did all right. I'd argue she wasn't overly tested as much as perhaps she could be. But she's had a good game. Aoife Mannion's had a couple of good games at right back, and she chose this one to not perform at the levels that she's been for the last 2 games. So, yeah, you can't escape the reality, which is that neither of those players are fullbacks, they're centre-backs. And that just takes you all the way back to the fact that we should have purchased some fullbacks during the January transfer window, but we didn't. We didn't get anybody. We just sort of sat there and went, no, this will be fine. Everything will be fine. And it reminded me a lot of the meme. The one where you've got like the dog that's just sitting there going, everything's fine, while everything is just burning down around him and he's about to become a hot dog. It's that one. It's because it's just like, it's not fine. It's so not fine. And I think, as the world knows, I have to sit over on AFU as well, the men's channel, and have this same conversation about having no fullbacks. It's like it's all I've spoken about for the last year. I think I'm going to be committed, like genuinely committed somewhere, and I'll just be found sat in the corner somewhere, just rocking backwards and forwards, going, fullbacks, need a fullback, stop playing centre backs at fullback. It's just, it doesn't work, and I don't know why we're consistently doing it. He's beat me down as Kevin Duff. I keep on seeing him put on here, just play one of the youth. I just hope we do. Just do that. Just play the youth, keep these people happy. And then equally, we can then look at it and go, I told you, that probably wasn't the best idea. But you never know. Stranger things have happened and maybe it would work. So no, I wasn't overjoyed with that one. Mayer and Millie are literally the only two that sort of pick themselves at the moment back there. He was always going to go for the same midfield, which I'm not entirely against. It seems to have worked okay for the most part. But again, if you look at the comment section, all you can see is, why isn't Arena playing? Why hasn't she been given a go? I haven't seen one yet, but I'm sure there'll be one in a minute saying, why didn't we let one of the 12 Haley lads play? That's going to pop in. There might even be a bit about Miyazawa, why wasn't she given a starting one? So there'll be loads about that. And then you get to the front three. I mean, you've got to play Paris. It makes sense to play Paris. It was good that he played Melvin. I think she'd earned a go. And I suppose Leah Galton had as well, to be fair. She was incredibly good in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of that game against Chelsea and was pivotal in us getting the lead that we did. But it doesn't change the fact that whenever you do that, we've just hit a point, Connor, in my opinion, and it's all it is, it's just my opinion, is that it doesn't matter what he does now, he's going to annoy someone. Polly has gone unpredictable. Mark Skinner is unpredictable. Right now, I would use the word polarizing because it just doesn't matter what he does. If he picks Katie Zellum, Barry's happy, somebody else isn't because she never gets dropped. If Lisa Nilsson plays, you're happy, Connor, because she's a Norwegian and you do love a good Norwegian. But Jess isn't happy. So Sean's not happy because he wants Haley Ladd to play because she's Welsh. You just end up with constant argument. And it's not really based on anything other than maybe. Because nobody knows. Like we've just seen Gemma Evans have a good position, a good game at left back. But ultimately, she's not a left back. She could play in the game against Leicester and be absolutely amazing. Equally, she could play and be absolutely crap. And the problem is we're all going to sit here and go, well, we should be playing this person. And we just don't know how they perform, especially in this system, because I'm not convinced they know what they're doing either. So was I happy when I saw it? To be honest, I just went, whatever. It is what it is. Because if I keep getting too upset about this, Connor, I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm getting to that age now. So it's probably not worth it.
I'm not going to ask you next week because I think it's probably going to set Tippy over the edge when we talk about the lineups next week on that one. Yeah, I'm with you in a sec because I think it's just what I said on the preview. I think when you look at math, it's now mathematically impossible for us to get top three. What we're doing in the league is semi-irrelevant. We'll come back to that in terms of fourth and sixth, really. But it's like I would have liked to have just seen something different. Why not? Like, we're not fighting for anything. We're not going for the title. It's not like last season when we need the wins because we're going for the title. Why can't Lad signs a contract extension at the back end of last year? She hardly plays since then. She played a lot going. I don't know what is that in her new contract? You did not just put that in the chat. That's not me, by the way. I'm gonna have to remove that in case people start thinking we're an agenda account or something.
That was me, and I absolutely stand by it.
I'm not sure I do, but there we are. Yeah, Monica's referencing that BBC story, by the way. I can't get anyone to confirm whether that was true. I'm not going to lie. People keep asking me. We've had so many replies on our TikToks about whether that's true or not. About him signing a contract extension. Genuinely, I don't know. But I will say the BBC have made a lot of errors when it comes to United match reporting this season. So I think it's probably maybe that more than like a leak of some kind on that one. Right, should we come to the first goal then? Yes, obviously it's a Gemma Evans cross, which was quite something. I thought, oh, here we go. Because initially I thought it was Zellum. It was a good little whip in. I thought, oh, that's a great delivery, that. But Melvin gets her head on it again. That to me is a proper striker's finish. I don't think you get that from probably most of our forwards. I think probably only her and Rachel get on the end of a cross like that. Because it's more the instinct, isn't it? And the technique, I guess, to get it over the keeper from there.
Yeah, absolutely, because the ball's kind of like floating in because of where the free kick was, like it's a difficult one. But to be fair to Evans, like literally like inch perfect, floats that in nicely. And like you say, Connor, I think a lot of our players aren't necessarily going to challenge for that. I think most of our players would rather the ball kind of be going a little bit wider, sort of either side of the 6-yard box. Whereas, to be fair to Malard, gets in there, knocks it over the keeper. And I did write some notes before, And for the goal, I just wrote Malard, absolute G. So that there were my thoughts. Yeah, I thought the finish was really, really good. And to be honest, when I saw that goal, I was like, here we go. This is it. This is like sort of peak United. This is what you want to see. This is the sort of goals you want to see. I think this is the sort of goal that we've maybe not seen enough of this season. Like you said, those kind of like out and out strikers finishes, you know, having the instinct to move and finish the ball like that. But sadly, I did not then see too much more of that, which was a little disappointing. But yeah, can't knock the cross or the finish at all. And I would honestly have not expected that link up. If you just said to me a few days ago, this is going to be like an Evans free kick, a Malard header, I'd have been like, sorry, what? But to be fair, get Evans on all our set pieces for a while because that was pretty sick.
She was as well, like hundreds of times, but she was on pretty much all of our set pieces. I think Zalem took a few in the second half, but majority of them it was Evans. You know, most of the free kicks in the corners. So, but she did that when the last time Evans played. She was on set piece as well. They must see something in training, and well, we saw it in the game. She's clearly got a good cross on her. So, you know, there you go, Sean. You know, for Wales, get Gemma Evans on your free kicks. Might get a few more goals there. Yeah, Paul, obviously, I think Jess has covered it pretty well in terms of the goal itself. But, you know, I guess, was it unexpected? You know, that kind of, like, well, I think I said to you, like, who assisted that? Because like, I genuinely thought it was Zella. But no, you wait till we get to a player of the match on because she's going to get mine, I think. I might change my mind, though, by the time it gets to it. But anyway, yeah, Paul, how impressed were you with that goal? And just, again, like, United started well. Again, it was like, and like Jess, I thought, yeah, here we go again. Like we're going to kick on, and we just didn't.
Yeah, it was a really good goal, and there was just kind of nice runs of play around it, and that's where it was frustrating because then suddenly when all that stopped, it's like, well, you have the ability to do it. Can you just keep doing that? But apparently that's not an option. But yeah, it is the weirdest link up and what I just could not have predicted. And as Jess was talking, I was just picturing Wembley and just imagining Gemma Evans with a free kick. And imagine Gemma Evans scored at Wembley. Like, what lifetime contract at United? Like, people joke about her stealing a living at United, but if she scores the winner in the final, then she definitely isn't.
I want a statue of it outside LSV. I am literally calling it now. A statue. She will go down in history as a United women's legend. I won't have it any other way.
Do you know what? I'll contribute to the fund of that. I will make that happen because I'm here for it. But yeah, it was really good. And again, like, it was nice that Malard had that moment. Obviously, it could potentially be her last game at LSV. Like, we don't really know. So it's good that she could kind of have that moment of celebration. But yeah, as you say, just the weirdest combination of people, but it worked. And so it's like maybe United could try that again.
Oh, that last game out loud makes me sad thinking about that. I just wanted to stay because, you know, everyone knows my thoughts. But like, I think, Polly, you referenced this at the start, like her celebration. Obviously, she did her usual, signature celebration. But then after that, she runs to Millie. Then she celebrates. She turns around again and celebrates with the fan. Then she runs off to someone else. Like, you could tell she is. I think Jess, you said this. She just seems. I don't know who she supports, but she just seems a diehard United fan who just loves playing and, you know, everything else. You know, we saw that when we beat Chelsea. She was the one that was hyping the crowd up, not just to us, the whole way around the pitch. She was running at the front. So yeah, if we can get her on a permanent, I'd absolutely love that. But we shall see. Who knows? Yeah, Baron, have you got anything to add on the goal itself? Because yeah, we've not scored as many set plays as we did last season, but we have scored quite a few. But yeah, it's like these two have kind of said it's not a combination we would have thought before the game, would it? Like Evans to Malard.
Before I commence this section of my input, I would like to suggest and hope that everybody who is listening to the podcast right now is sat down or holding on to something. Steady yourself, be very careful. I can do this, one moment. Katie Zellam's set pieces over the last couple of months have not been at the standard that you would expect of Katie Zellam. And I can understand, therefore, why they may have been looking for some other people to try and switch it up a bit, make it a bit different. At the end of the day, David Beckham was very good at doing it, and he could absolutely put it on a sixpence time and time again. Katie Zellum can as well, but maybe it's becoming a little bit predictable as to where she's going with it, whether that's her problem, a set piece specialist problem, whether that's just where she's being told to put the ball problem, I don't know, but it hasn't been. Ema put a message just a little bit earlier on saying, and it made me giggle, that she kept on getting Evans and Nielsen mixed up. So did I. I was really struggling because we're on a bus anyway, so it was a bit bumpy as it goes. But I genuinely thought it must have been a Nielsen free kick because I'm like, why would Gemma Evans be over there? She's a left back. And it was only when I looked at the numbers properly that I saw it was Gemma, and it was an absolutely bang-on free kick. Absolutely superb. Right into the danger area, into the corridor of uncertainty where you want it. And up comes Melvine Malard, giving us Everlard, which is their relationship name I'm going for there. So Everlard for the win. And it was brilliant. Absolutely superb goal. So really, really impressed with that. She did, like I say, we had a good game, and that's great. Everybody has that. A stop clock is right twice a day. So, if she can do it against Leicester as well, we're on to a winner. As you always said, as a centre-back, brilliant. So I don't see any reason why a free kicks wouldn't be. So let's be clear. The issue there is over there on the left-hand side. First, Barry miss. I'm really not sure what's happened there. Does that mean I've missed? No, you're going to have to help me. I don't know what I've done wrong there, Rick. Anyway, so yeah, she did very good. Brilliant header as well from Malard. And at that point, we really should have gone to kill the game off. I couldn't care less, Annabelle. I'm not here to please people. All right there, Connor. Are you stuck again? He is, isn't he? Oh, for God's sake. I wondered why he wasn't saying anything.
I was just looking at him like, is he really deep in thought? Or
No, I mean, it's like he's just, what's he going to say next? What's he going to say next?
yeah, I thought he was just thinking. I expected to see some little smoke peering out of his ears in a minute.
He's just going to throw the laptop and himself out the window. Well, this is entertaining. I best move Jess out of the way before she gets panicking.
I know. Oh my God, am I in charge then? I was in like a spot.
Well, I did wonder what was going to go on there. I can't do anything about that, but the good news is that if he just ties his hair to his bedpost, he'll land beautifully. No problem whatsoever. Right. Well, again, I found myself in this position. It's quite a thing. He can't seem to do a whole show. I can't seem to end a show. So between the pair of us, we're a right pair. Where have we made it up to now? The equalizer. Do you know that was a really weird 2 minutes for me? He'll probably want to do each goal separately. But I was watching, like I say, on the bus on my 4G. So as a result, it kept pausing. So we were 1-0 up. And the next thing I saw, they scored and we were 2-1 down. And I'm like, how is this? Surely it goes 1-1 before 2-1. And me and the goalkeeper coach were really confused. And then we realised, obviously, that we'd missed a goal in the minute or so that it had been buffering. So as a result, Jess, what did you make of those goals? Looking at the very first one, it wasn't ideal. It just seemed like everything happened in slow motion. It might have been because the replay I was watching was in slow motion, but it seemed like they had loads of them.
I was going to say, is that because it was just like buffering and just playing really, really slow? No, I thought defensively, to be honest, we looked quite shaky from the start. Spurs had a really good chance within about 30 seconds of the game that all just came from poor defending. One thing I will say is Jess Naz, to be fair, played really, really well. I think the one good thing about this is we really need to keep an eye on her for the final, because I thought she was pretty good, to be honest. She was probably the most dangerous Spurs player. I just thought it was really poor defensively. For their first goal, there was sort of where Jess Naz was, I think there was just like 3 players all sort of stood next to each other, all unmarked. And if one of them hadn't have got it, the other one would. It was just, I don't know whether it was just a case of the fact that you literally had 4 centre-backs all playing basically, and no one knew where anyone else was supposed to be. But I just thought maybe the lack of communication or the lack of knowing where each other are going to be. I think that there just wasn't enough marking. Players were just wandering and kind of becoming free just too much. And it was too easy. It was way, way too easy. And for me, it was down. Like, I don't want to take anything away from Spurs because, to be fair, they did really well. But I think we let them get in on us basically very, very easily because of poor defending and just poor. I think it was more poor positioning. The way we were setting up to defend the ball just was not working. For me, I guess I would say that's just because you've got 4 players that don't know really where each other are going to be because you've got people out of position. But yeah, just poor, to be honest.
Hello again. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm not in the mood for this anymore. I know you were talking about the first second goal.
The way that froze was horrific because not
Just
because you
remove
looked
me
terrible,
this time.
but the way you were like that, it was almost as if you were just. And I genuinely thought you were just egging me on, as if you wanted me to, sort of start poking some bears or stuff. And there's nothing.
Well, I thought you'd read the chat because I was frantically trying to put in there, just kick me off the stream because I know streamer keeps you in. Yeah, I know. I was listening to what you were asking. So yeah, I'll just follow on with the same questions. But yeah, there's a lot of comments obviously talking about why she was completely unmarked on the edge of the box. Yeah, I agree. Obviously, there was a lot of people complaining that she was offside. She wasn't. Mayer's keeping her on by quite some distance.
And there we go again. So, Polly, as you can see, Mayer's playing her on by quite some distance. Why don't you? I'll just remove him. I just can't. Oh, dearie God. So, yeah, it didn't work as well as everybody's loving it in the chat. It didn't work as well as you wanted it to. As Jess mentioned, there was just so much space. It was, again, cut back, came in down that right-hand side. So it was the one where, this is why obviously Aoife was waked off, I think, at half-time. Genuinely, I think they would have been looking to potentially take Gemma Evans off at half-time. I think that the way the left-hand side was getting battered was the right-hand side for United is the reason why we found ourselves conceding. Would you agree with that? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because definitely for the second goal, I think the cause was head loss. Like after that first goal, it was just a bit crazy. But I think in terms of the first goal, I think up till that point, United were relatively composed. I think it's the organisation, particularly along that back line. Obviously, I know it was slightly different because Mayer was playing in the midfield and things like that, but it just didn't feel very structured and organised, which is, I think, when United do quite well. And as you mentioned, the space, that was a massive problem. And, Spurs aren't a bad side. They've had a really good season. They've got a lot of options up front. And, I mean, the goal was credited to Beth England in the end. I think initially it was credited to Drew Spence. But, it just felt like United, they didn't quite panic, but they just didn't really know what to do and potentially didn't expect it, which I think is quite naive given, Spurs are quite an attacking side now.
No, absolutely. And I've got nothing really to add on that one, mainly because I missed the general gist of it because of buffering. So obviously we then go on to the second goal. Within 2 minutes, it's taken 2 minutes and we've gone from being ahead and mostly cruising to being in a situation, Jess, where we're now 2-1 behind and it's a bit more of an uphill struggle. And again, defensively not ideal. We've got some people like Mike saying here, everyone stopped. Mary started to come and then stopped. Just a lack of communication, as RSC said. Maybe Mary could have done a little bit better. But again, defensively, just like rabbits in headlights.
Yeah, again, it's like I said for the first goal, it's like no one really knew where their teammates were. So I think this was the one where players running down the wing, can't remember who it was, might be Jess Naz, and Mannion as the, I'm trying to think, right back should be following the player, but doesn't, and ends up tucking inside. So then Mayer goes over. But it's like like Mannion was really off it. I don't know if she picked up a knock or had something wrong, but when I watched it before, you can see this like moment. It's like I don't know what she was doing. It's like she was daydreaming or something. Then all of a sudden, kind of player runs by her and she's like, oh my God, like I'm supposed to be tracking that player. And I mean, that might just because she's not used to being in that position and necessarily having a player kind of run at her in that way. So she kind of thinks, oh my God, better start moving. Does, but at that point, May has had to come across and cover. So she tucks it in. Now, in all fairness, that wasn't really anything to do with the goal itself, but you just think, had that been dealt with sooner, would the ball have made it in? And that you're not in the position where you're even having to kind of defend more centrally. But again, I just thought we were too slow. No one seemed to go out to close the ball down. I think this was the one where Zell just got turned way too easily. I mean, granted, she's not a defender, but she is a good enough player to know that you don't oversell yourself. But again, that being said, I think this was the Jess Naz goal. She just had way too much time. Way too much time. The only player that was kind of there was Zell, who looked like she just panicked, dived in, got sent the wrong way, and a decent finish. I don't know whether Mary should have maybe done a little bit better there. It's difficult from the angle I was looking at it, like the TV angle. It was difficult to know how much visibility Mary Earps really had of that. But we see her make some incredible saves. From what I saw, I would expect her to do a little bit better. But also, I don't know. I don't know whether she maybe couldn't see it until last minute or what. But again, I just think we conceded a really silly goal for that first one. And at that point, you've got to have a bit of like game management. You 1-1, it's not the end of the world. At that point, we needed to restart the game. It's nearly half time and just calm it back down. So to concede within a couple of minutes, I know you see it all the time in football, in men's football, women's football. Like the first 2 minutes or something after kick off, like you're more likely either to score again or concede. But I think at that point, the players needed to just keep possession, basically. And I think sometimes we concede and then like panic. And there's this sort of desire to do something really stupid instead of just getting control of the game again, settling back down, make some easy passes and just play yourself back into the game and then progress up the pitch. It was just, I'll say it again, it was just disappointing. I don't know how many times I've said that this game was disappointing now, but the overarching theme is that it just was. And we really should be better than that. A team like United shouldn't really be conceding two silly goals like that from kind of defensive errors in such a short space of time.
So the general gist there, I think, is that Jess is disappointed, but we shall come back to her if we need to. Polly, as Mike's put here, Aoife looked like a natural centre-half playing at right back, and I presume he means mainly for that goal. Do you think that that's part of the issue, not just in this game and in this goal specifically, but also in sort of all of the games that we've had really where we're not playing, Evans at left back, where we've been playing people out of their position, that actually they are so used to being centre backs and playing in that position that when they then move into right back, it's too easy to go into where they should be as a centre back because that's so well drilled into them that actually, even though they may have been practicing it for some time, it's not natural to them to be going out and trying to fulfil the right back role, and that actually that was part of the issue.
I do find it quite frustrating when managers play players out of position because it's of benefit to no one. It doesn't help the player really develop. Maybe it makes them more versatile, but as it's kind of clear with a lot of players, versatility isn't such a good thing. You look at Rachel Daly, and actually, it's not really fair on the player. I think the thing that's quite difficult for with the players Mark Skinner's got is you look at Millie Turner and Maya Letizia, they make a great centre-back pairing. You play them there and it works quite well. But even then, when they go to international duty, I know we've had the whole thing with Maya Letizia and Serena playing her out of position and things like that. So I guess Mark Skinner needs to utilise his players a little bit better. And maybe that's just the combination of players he's got, that he actually doesn't have that many options. But I don't see why he does it so frequently. across the pitch, to be fair, because actually it's not going to help his team. You need to put quality players in their position if you want it to work. Particularly, you think about defence, like that communication needs to be really good, and you need to keep that back line consistent, because how do they build up those relationships? How do they build that consistency if every other week they're playing in a different position and expected to do different things? For me, I don't think that makes very much sense if you want to build a team that wins week in, week out and builds consistency.
Well, that was Ethan Mannion's third, I think, appearance at right back. So judging by the usual numbers he throws out, she needs at least another 37 games there before she can understand how May Letitia and whoever else plays in front of her will do. I'm not convinced Connor's going to make it back. He's having some serious problems at the moment. So it looks like it's me. So hello, everyone. And we'll see how we get on. But he has sent across some of the questions and thoughts that he had. So a good one, really, because the fact that it went from 1-0 to 2-1 so rapidly, Jeff, do you think there was just a mentality shift between where we were and then that happening? Was that a mentality with us that we're just thinking we've got the goal, so therefore we can step back a bit now like we have been known to do? Or do you think it was a case of, they've just seen an opportunity and then as soon as the goal goes in, they've capitalised on that? What do you think it was that caused us to go from being fairly in control to chasing the game?
I think 1-0 is still a kind of dangerous place to be. Like we saw at the weekend, one kind of small mistake and suddenly you're drawing. And then, like I kind of said previously, if you don't kind of get your head straight back screwed on, it's very, very easy to concede again, which is exactly what happened. So I don't necessarily have an issue mentality-wise with conceding when they were 1-0 up, because that happens. That's just part of the game. My biggest concern is not being able to get back into the game, really, and conceding again so quickly. I think that would be the biggest concern. And in terms of mentality, that would be where my concern really lies, that we score a goal, don't really push again for another one, concede, and then the heads go down. And that's when we're really at risk to concede again, which is exactly what happened. And I think we've said it a few times on the show when we've compared it to last season. Last season, like, it just felt like the mentality of the team was really good, we could be drawing 0-0 all game and it was like, no, like, we're going to keep pushing to the end and we'd get like a winner, or, we'd pull it back from kind of losing positions. Whereas I just don't really feel the same so much this season. I think we've seen too many draws. We've dropped too many points, really, in sort of when we've been in winning positions or favourable positions. So, yeah, for me, the mentality thing is a difficult one. There's obviously some shift from last season. I'm not entirely sure what that is. I don't know whether it's just there's a lot of noise going on around the team behind the scenes and things like that, and it's got to affect the players. I imagine that there's a hell of a lot of reasons as to why the mentality might not be quite what it was last season. I also think that the problem is now with the WSL, like, it's done. I know that Arsenal, technically, we were still able to catch up with Arsenal, but realistically, it's been a few weeks, really, that we were kind of confirmed out of that top three. And I just think that now the players' heads might have just dropped a little bit, like, in general. You're not really playing for anything anymore. I mean, you still should be turning out because you're playing to win. Every week should be playing to win. But in terms of like actual silverware qualifying for Europe, that's gone. Like kind of Connor mentioned earlier when he first started the show, we will at this point be lucky to finish fourth. And yeah, I do think generally speaking, but I'm sorry, Barry, I've rambled instead of just answering your question. I think mentality has probably a bigger effect on the team rather than just this like one little conceding a goal. I think it's a bigger problem than just in this one game, is what I'm trying to say.
Fair point, and you got there, so don't worry about it. It's all good. Michael would just put up here that Aoife plays at right back for Ireland. I mean, yes, she does, but again, it's a different manager, different styles, different communication, which is what people are talking about. It's still not necessarily natural. I know there was a fair few international breaks, but even though there are a lot of international breaks, it's very inconsistent. Your bread and butter is where you are at your club. So I'm not so sure about that. Very good, Dave. Well done. And I am no cops. I just am. I believe Connor described me as the Zlatan Ibrahimovic of AFU the other day, just like chest out and acting like I'm God. So he'd probably agree with that. So yeah, that's me. I just do what I want. What's the old chant? We do what we want. Anyway, Polly, you are someone who saw the game as well. Did you think it was a mentality shift? Did you notice anything within the stadium? Was there sort of like a change in the atmosphere? What do you think it was that contributed to us, like I say, being in charge, to being chasing after the game?
I think I said at the start, it was just a bit of a weird game. Like, the atmosphere went really strange. Like, it was silent. You could hear a pin drop. It was really weird. Kind of just before half time, and then the start of the second half, like, I was sat down and I could almost feel myself falling asleep. Not because it was boring, but it was actually a bit boring, to be fair. But just because, like, yeah, there was nothing. There weren't those exciting moments, things like that. It was just towards the end where, Mary Earps goes up and you think, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? But yeah, I think part of it is mentality. But as Jess said, they kind of have nothing to play for. Obviously, yes, the FA Cup final. But I think playing the team you're about to play in the FA Cup final, when actually in the league you've got nothing left, it's just a bit of a weird situation. So I do understand why the game was the way it was. But at the same time, I think it is quite a poor mentality. If you in theory have nothing to play for, I think it's quite poor if you're just kind of not going to bother. And that's at some parts in the game. I think that's the way it felt. It felt quite sloppy. There wasn't much energy to it. And yeah, I just think if you want to be a team that's pushing for top three, that's pushing for Champions League, and even pushing for the title, you can't let your quality drop, even if you're not doing. Because say United now finish sixth in the table, that looks awful. It looks a lot better if you're fourth and think, oh, we were close, but we missed out. That's a shame. But if you finish sixth, it's like, oh, actually, we've done a pretty awful job this season. And yeah, if United go on and win the FA Cup, maybe it will make it look a bit nicer, make it look a bit better, and the season is part of the bad part. The bad parts are a little bit forgotten, but I don't really know if that's going to be the case, because yeah, the way they played was pretty dull yesterday.
Fair points indeed. Connor doesn't usually do any of this because he doesn't necessarily think we need to, but I want to surprise him. Seeing as how he's not here and he's clearly a little bit grumpy now, we've got like 76 people I can see as a number here, and 24 likes at the moment. So if we could get that up a bit higher towards 76, we're going to turn it into a bit of a comic relief type thing. Get your likes in. Let's see if we can get it to the highest amount we've ever had before. And maybe we can get Sir Terry Wogan from Beyond the Grave to come and do the final total like he used to. That's Children in Need. That's the wrong one entirely. This has not gone well. Let's talk about the late equaliser, Jess, because May Letitia, what a week it's been for her. She signs a new contract, which gives us a 4-year deal, which is just absolutely outstanding. That was a superb bit of news. It really started off the weekend great. And now we're in a situation where she's then gone and scored the equaliser. There was a lot said when she signed that contract. And one of the main things that they were talking about was that they see good leadership material in here. She's potentially a future captain for Manchester United. With that in mind, that sort of behaviour and that sort of will to win, that desire to get there first and drag us back from the jaws of defeat, that's exactly what you want to see in a future captain. It was an awesome way. I mean, it's not by no stretch of the imagination as good as the first 2 goals that she scored for us on her debut, but in terms of not going home entirely upset, that's the one, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and whilst potentially not as good as her debut goals, I think potentially more important. Had we not kind of bagged that right at the sort of death, then that would have been 3 points to Spurs and none for us. which, given how the table is looking, would not have been too great. So quite honestly, after the performance, you would take a point shared, fine, whatever. So yeah, I think just her kind of tenacity and will to win the ball in that situation, I think that is what will kind of potentially help her and help her game grow. And she does have the potential to be, a United legend, really, like in the women's team. Everything we've seen so far, I think she's a fantastic player. I think she's got absolutely massive potential. And yeah, with a contract kind of the length it is, then I wouldn't be surprised, should she kind of see out the length of the contract, which I really hope she does, that she is sort of future captain material. The players obviously respect her. I think she's a well-respected member in the dressing room. I think she kind of voices concerns where necessary. I just get the impression that she's a fantastic player, like a really great person as well, and can probably be a really great leader. The fact that she kind of has been at the club for a couple of years, and she's still young herself, I think that puts her in a good position to communicate and deal with the younger players coming through as we progress through time. So yeah, for me, she has got the makings of a really, really good captain, and I hope that she has a long, long career at United.
Yeah, absolutely would echo that. Emer, I suppose the question here is, would you get tattooed on your back in the same way that you would Gemma Evans? That's the ultimate question there. And Emily, I am not convinced that I can get him to sing Queen at Wembley. I can probably get him to eat a burger with his hands just for the lulz. I don't think I could get Connor to cut his quiff for millions of pounds. It's his pride and joy. So I can't see it happen. Oh, it'll happen. It will happen. We win that FA Cup. It will happen. I will make it happen, even if I have to drive all the way over there myself and hold his hands to do it. It will happen. Polly, you again saw the equaliser as well. May Letitia, what did you make of it? Because there was no way she wasn't getting to that ball, was there?
Well, I'll be completely honest. We all thought Marriott had scored it because when everyone cheered in celebration, whatever, Marriott literally jumped on everyone and then ran the length of the pitch to get back to the goal and was giving it the big ones. I was like, okay, did she score? And we thought, we probably would have seen if she scored because she went up earlier to head one and it went past the goal. So you thought, maybe she's done it because she was really celebrating, but it was May Letitia. But yeah, I have so many good things to say about May. I could talk about her for hours. And I think the fact she signed a 4-year contract, which is a very significant contract. Like, I know she's young, but that's like a big chunk of time to be at a club. And it's mad to think she's only been at United for 2 seasons now. She's just turned 22, so she's still a very young player, but she's got bags of experience under her. And yeah, I just think when people kind of circulate the idea of her being the next United captain, I think that's a great idea because I think someone in the comments was saying about her leading England through age group levels. And yeah, she kind of has those natural leadership skills, and that's quite apparent. I think also the way she's kind of grown into her role in the back line, I think considering she's quite young, she is quite confident doing that. And yeah, I am very impressed with her. And I think the fact United have secured her for another 4 years is fantastic. And I hope she's had a massive, massive pay rise because she deserves it. I want her on millions because she's absolutely brilliant.
There we go. Gemma Evans, somebody that I know Connor really wanted to talk about. If Sean's still in the chat, his little ears are going to be pricked up right about now. But we did want to have a separate point just for her because she really was, Jess, for all of the mediocre performances that she gave at left back previously. It's by far her best performance in a Man United shirt so far.
Yeah, 100%. I think the issue with her in previous games was that she's not really a left back. And we've been sort of playing her there, like against City, who have got some of the best wide players like in the world. And we're just throwing her out there like, oh yeah, you'll be all right. Good luck. And I think that's probably been the biggest issue. However, that being said, I thought she was fantastic. She got the assist, which is, we've already touched on that, not something that I don't think any of us would have thought she could do. She got, I think, the pre-assist for the next goal, if you want to call it that. I thought that overall, a game was really, really good. I thought she was a fantastic player. And I literally can't knock her at all. I thought she put in a really, really good shift and has proved why, she was actually a good kind of sign in the summer, really.
Polly, do you have any more that you wanted to say about Gemma, or do you feel like you covered that a little bit earlier on?
Yeah, I've kind of covered most of what I want to say, but I just think it's very fascinating that Mark Skinner brought her in from Reading, who were being relegated, and it's not like she had been Reading's top player. She was miles above everyone else. I thought she was all right, but she wasn't. I wouldn't say she was kind of a top 4 club player. And that was kind of clear when she came to United, and she didn't have these great performances. But I think, the way she played yesterday, I was really impressed. And actually, for someone who's had quite bad performances, to find that confidence from somewhere, I think that takes quite a lot. So I was really impressed with her, and I've kind of had to eat my words sometimes about what I've said about her. But I was impressed, and I kind of hope that continues rather than it being a little bit of a fluke. Because I thought she was outstanding yesterday.
Super duper. Jessie Jules saying that she thinks Chelsea will win the Champions League this season and the WSL. Well, why not? They win most of that stuff every other year, but they're not going to win the other two things, are they? Because they're out. Sorry, didn't mean to. I can do that on this channel. It's all good. We're allowed. Right. I've got some starred comments here. Let's have a look what's going on here. I'm going to come to Sporty's point in just a second. Where was it? So Marin had a great question. We are going to come to this very quickly. Do you think any other current United players should be rewarded with a 4-year contract?
Melvin Malard.
Interesting.
I think, and I know that there's a lot of chat about whether she's going to leave in summer, but honestly, I absolutely love Garcia. I think she has been fantastic. I think she was fantastic off the bench more last season, and she's been incredible in a lot of our games this season, and she has been kind of one of the few bright points. I'm just trying to think if there's anyone else, but that actually, in terms of who's kind of played consistently well this season, that honestly might be it, which is a little bit disappointing, but I'm trying to think. Yeah, Grace, but to be honest, as much as I absolutely rate Grace Clinton, we have not seen her in a United shirt. So I think I want her back for next season, and then assuming she plays well. And if she doesn't, then I don't know what United are doing to people, because there is no reason why she should not be playing well. But that's a whole other conversation. So for me, Melvin Mallard, Garcia, and Millie Turner's a great shout as well.
Interesting. Lots of shouts going in here. Lucia Garcia getting them. Mallard obviously been mentioned. Millie Turner thrown out there. Polly, is there anyone who you think Mark Skinner should be offering the next 4-year contract to?
I don't know about 4 year, because I know this is controversial, but I think Leah Galton, to be fair. Like, I know she's a bit on and off now and then, but I have so much respect for her. I also think she's a great person, and she's a very good player. Particularly like last season, she was really good. I think she's been a little bit inconsistent this season. I don't know how well that will go down, but I rate her, to be fair.
I think me and you are going to get on from now on, Michael. But it's one little outburst for me, and then you're on side. Good lad. And I know you've done that just for me, so thank you. My heart is full. Right. The last couple of things that we wanted to mention here, because now with that result, Jess, we are on target for our lowest finish. As Sporty says here, we're sleepwalking to the end of the WSL season with top 3 mathematically gone. we are on target for our lowest ever points tally in the WSL this season. It's an interesting situation. I had this conversation with Connor when I was speaking to him a little bit earlier on, and he was saying, "Oh, I see, it's quite bad because it's going to be our lowest ever points tally in the WSL." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's in 5 years. We've had 5 years, one of which doesn't count because we stopped at 28, and then the world just changed because we all had a very bad disease around. But the other 4 years." The only other one that was the lowest was, sadly, Mark Skinner's first season. Obviously, the best one was Mark Skinner's second season. Then you've got Casey Stoney smack bang in the middle of those three. This one's going to sit right at the very bottom. But do you subscribe to the same sort of theory that I do, which is that ultimately, out of 5 years, perhaps this isn't as deep as some people might like to try and make it? Because if you were to say that about the men's team, you'd be looking at about 150 years of history. Here we're talking about 5. Is it a big deal?
I think the concern is that it's showing regression. I think whatever way you look at it, Barry has dipped. Goodbye. That's it. I am in charge now.
Nor did I was just getting a glass, Jess. And I don't think anyone needed to see me get up and do that.
Sorry, I was just hoping that I was going to be made boss then, to be honest. I was going to just start taking over the whole channel and all sorts. I am also just staring at the table right here to really think about it. I think the biggest problem, to be honest, for me is the regression. I don't think, like you say, Barry, the club physically hasn't been around for that long and we lost a season thanks to Rona. So I don't think saying it's our worst season in however long is quite as bad as people maybe want it to sound. That being said, we could very well finish 6th. And that is the problem. We're not at that stage yet, but we're not far off, really. We've got tough matches coming up as well. We've got Liverpool and Chelsea basically to finish the season on. Chelsea alone is a terrifying prospect, really. I know we have just finally beaten them for the first time, but they are going to be out for blood. It's the last game of the season for them. Well, for both of us, sorry. It's Hayes' last game in charge. They are going to be out for blood. So without getting too neggy about a game that's way off in the future, I'm not looking forward to that one. So my concern really is the regression because it's quite significant. We're not just talking we came second last season. It's not even a case of, we came second last season and we finished 4th. We're going to be lucky if we actually do finish 4th here. So I think that's kind of the biggest issue. That although it is our worst season, we're not even playing particularly well. I think this might be, in terms of looking at the season as a whole, this might be the worst I've kind of seen the team play. Oh my God, Liz Truss actually outlasted me. That means I've been beaten by a lettuce as well.
That's officially the best thing you've ever written in the history of the world.
I'm not coming back on. I'm dipping. That is actually sent me.
Oh, that sent me that as. Wow. Annabelle and April just won the internet.
Been done like that. That was actually horrendous. Out of all the people I could be compared to, I get compared to the Liz Truss. The person that we forget was ever even in charge. That's it. I'm going to host a show on here just to prove you all wrong.
At least you didn't tank the economy, so all is well. But let's not get too political. Whilst we're in the process of talking about things like that, we're on 77 people watching, 37 likes so far. So keep going. People asking whether or not Connor will eat a burger with his hands if we get to 76. We won't know unless we get to 76, will we? So keep going, gang. Polly, I'm gonna try and get it towards closing now, but right, you can say what you want to if you want to about the lowest points tally, and Jess, you'll be able to come back on this one again as well in a second. Do you think it's important that Manchester United finish 4th and not 6th, even if we get a potential FA Cup win? I think it's really interesting because a lot of the narrative around Man United at the moment is that even with an FA Cup win, some people wouldn't want Mark Skinner to stay another season. I find it very interesting that on the one hand, we're saying that, on the other hand, we're potentially building statues of Gemma Evans if we win the FA Cup and she scores a goal. So it's like the FA Cup clearly means something to us as fans, because it's potentially, well, not potentially, it would be the first bit of major silverware that we've got, not counting the Championship, obviously, because it's not top tier, second tier. But that ability to have that, do you think it matters? Lots of people talking about progression. The position obviously is going to have regressed whatever happens. But to actually win an FA Cup, I mean, that's a thing, right? Surely, if it's that big of a thing, do we need to give Mark Skinner a little bit more credit there? I don't know. Is it important that we finish fourth or sixth, or does that not really matter now? Now it's just about getting that FA Cup win.
It's an interesting one, because after the semi-final against Chelsea, the narrative about Mark Skinner changed. It was probably only for a day, but it changed quite a bit. And people were like, yes, FA Cup final, all this sort of thing. So if United go and win the FA Cup, I have a feeling it will be a lot more positive. How long that will last, I do not know. And I think that is why the league is quite important. Because, yeah, you can say, oh, United won the FA Cup, but they finished sixth. It doesn't reflect well. I mean, of course, Spurs would be in a similar position, but their kind of journey through the league has been very different, and they've actually progressed rather than regressed. So I think actually the league is quite important. And I think, okay, say United go on to win the FA Cup, maybe they'll be more motivated for the league. Like, I know they can't win anything, and I know they can't get Champions League, but it might give them that boost of, okay, we want to try and do as well as we can. And yeah, this comment, the FA Cup shouldn't keep Skinner, but it will. And I think that's, as soon as they won the semi-final, I think that was almost the signature on the paper. That was, okay, yeah, you're sticking around. Which, you know, fans will have divided opinion on that. But I think at the end of the day, the league is kind of the bread and butter of domestic football. Like, I know obviously the FA Cup means a lot, and winning that would be incredible for United, but the league is where, you know, you do that week in, week out, and that is more reflective as across the whole season, because you play all the games. And yeah, football fans do have goldfish memories, and particularly when people win silverware, everything else is forgotten. Like, say they played awfully in the final, whatever. No, we got the trophy though, so it's fine. So I think on one hand it does matter, but at the same time, winning the FA Cup would be a historical moment for the club. It will be the first time they've ever done it, and so I guess the league could be overlooked.
It's an interesting point. It really, really is. And I mean, like Michael Burke said, the only thing worse than finishing mid-table is making the cup final by the skin of your teeth against a Championship side who are doing worse than you are in their league. Oh, wait a minute. Exactly. It's gone down a storm, this Liz Truss comment. It really has. Peter and Pilots is the best spontaneous line ever. Somebody wasn't watching the All For Wins Football Easter extravaganza, because I guarantee there's one in there that beats that. Like I said, the lot of us over the edge. Go and watch that. See if you can find it. Come back to me.
Maybe one day I'll do like a Easter extravaganza quiz for the All for United channel as well. Next Easter, I will pull out the bag and do 2 quizzes.
We're going to hold you to that. Absolutely hold you to that. But Jess, JJ's put here, if we finish 5th or 6th, how on earth does that warrant a contract extension? And this is kind of the thing, isn't it? Is that everybody is talking about the joy of winning the FA Cup. And if we win at Wembley, the atmosphere is going to be incredible. It really would be. And we'd be delighted because we'd have won our first major trophy. Are we being a bit hypocritical if we don't give Skinner the same kudos as we give everybody else? Because are we then falling into that trap of we're just going to give the praise to the players when things go well and then just have a go at the manager when things go wrong? Surely it's both, or not at all.
I think for me, and I kind of mentioned it before, my issue has been the performances. Like the way the team have been playing, we've said this like every single week, they don't look like they know what they're doing. there is like 11 individuals out on that pitch. And sometimes we'll line up very similar to how we lined up last season, and it just doesn't work. And for me, it's a performance thing. I think with the FA Cup, and before I even start what I'm going to say next, I'll say that I'm going to be a little bit contradictory, because I think with the FA Cup, it's the same reason why sometimes like lower down teams get further, because you've got a limited amount of games and you can also almost just ride it a little bit on luck. You also go further in the competition playing teams that are sort of lower down, which in the women's game, there is a big, big gap between the sort of higher up teams and the lower down teams. That being said, the performance against Chelsea was obviously incredible. We have never beaten them before in any competition, and we did that. And for me, that was partly, obviously it was down to the players as well, but I thought the tactics were a lot better for that game. But that's almost like more frustrating. We go up against Chelsea, we play really like aggressive, attacking and like positive football. Why can't we have been doing that all season, for one? And why can't we literally the following week take what we've done in that game to Spurs, who are, let's face it, nowhere near as good as Chelsea? So for me, that's the issue I have with Skinner, really. It's the lack of consistency with the team itself, the tactics. I personally don't think the tactics are that good. I don't think that the team knows what they're doing. I don't think that there's enough cohesion. And I'm not convinced that that's a sort of player problem. And to be honest, even if it is a player problem, as the manager, that's for Skinner to fix. And I don't think that it's a fact that we've just been unlucky in a few games and we've dropped out of the top four. We have played poorly for probably over half of the games this season. So for me, that's why even if we win the FA Cup, I don't think that should just automatically warrant him a contract extension, because I do kind of think that to some extent, and I don't want to like minimize the achievements of getting this far in the cup, but you can to some extent just kind of get a bit lucky. And again, I don't want to minimize the achievements. I know I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but I hope you know what I mean.
I do indeed. I always know what you mean, Jess. You are very articulate, even though you don't always think that you are. Two things. Number one, Jesse's put in here, next season, Chelsea will not be the same. There is your time to be in the title race. Can I just say, and I don't know, but because I'd like to finish with something that's a little bit more positive, could you imagine, Jess? Just imagine it. Take a moment. We win the FA Cup. And then the following week, Chelsea come to Old Trafford knowing they need to win the league. And we do it again. And stop them winning the league and send Emma Hayes off with her little passport, feeling all depressed. Like, I didn't win anything I wanted to win. That'd be quite funny, really, wouldn't it?
I would honestly love that. I think at this stage, it would probably, I wouldn't say it will rescue the season for me, but it will definitely help me look back at this season with kind of a more favourable tinge, let's say.
Sounds good to me. You've got about 30 seconds, everyone, to finish the poll. Although I'm not convinced you're going to do too much damage to it, whatever you do now. So good luck to you. But yes, you've got a little bit of time to finish it off. Whilst you're there, if you haven't done it yet, we're on to 42, everyone. That's very good. But 78 of you, that's 36 of you that haven't managed to push the little thumbs. It's just a thumb. If you push the thumbs down, get rid of that. Thumbs up. It's that one. It looks like that's pointing up. Yeah, that one. Good. Last thing for young Jorge Oliver Valenzuela here, who has said we should be in the Champions League fighting for titles, and it's been 6 years. We've only been 6 years old. Do you know many 6-year-olds that can go off and win the Champions League? I don't. The most 6-year-olds I know, I'm pleased if they can go to the toilet by themselves and, not walk into each other. So let's be brutally honest. I think we're doing a great job considering where we are. Come back to us when we're in our teenage years. That'll be much more exciting. Right. That's it. We're done. I don't care if he's ended it or not. We are where we are. And this is roughly where we were. Let's see where we are in player of the match. I can confirm that the queen of all things Manchester United, Katie Zellum, got 10%. The best ever Welsh left back in the history of Manchester United Football Club, Gemma Evans, got 13%, which means it's between, thank God she's not related to Matt, and Malard Milady. And I can tell you one got 44%, one got 31%. And of course, it's the only May Letitia who has managed to get the win. So Gemma Evans was in with a shout. She didn't quite manage to get there. May Letitia, probably because she gained us the point, was always going to be the one there. So well done, Maya. She'll be added to Connor's pie chart. And we'll all get to see that at the end of the season, which will be absolutely wonderful. So there we are. We're pretty much done for over here. Polly, just a time now to say thank you very much for popping on and coming in last. It's a good job we did, really, because if it just been me, Jess, and Connor, it'd just be me and Jess just sat, it would have gone into absolute chaos because it would have been like naughty school children. So thank you for keeping us in, in line. Connor's finally decided to post something. Here's what he said. It's all the fours. 4-year contract after scoring in the 4 minutes of added time, then wins player of the match with 44%. There you go. Polly, do you want to give a little shout out? Where can people find you should they wish to find out more from you? Maybe watch a cricket podcast whilst they're driving, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so my Twitter's there, which is basically where you can find all my other stuff. I will actually plug the podcast. It's called the Naughty Child Podcast. It's all about cricket. And we've just brought out basically the Panini sticker book, but for cricket. So if you don't know anything about cricket, that's probably the best way to understand women's domestic cricket because it's in a football format, but it's cricket. So go enjoy that.
Do they sell them in packs of 4 and packs of 6?
Unfortunately, not on sale. Also, not a sticker book. But it's all the cards are filled in, so you don't have to swap with anyone. So you get a full book, no expense spared. It's easy, and you can have online or you can print out as a PDF. So it's very versatile.
There you go. And I have seen photo footage of people taking it down to the cricket players and getting it signed and everything. So keep your eye on what this young lady's doing here. She is flying in the world of both football and cricket. How's that? That looked more like baseball, really, to be honest with you, but never mind. Jess, as ever, thank you very much for joining us. If you feel like you just can't get enough, a bit like the Saturdays, then it might be a good idea to get your fix by just joining us. About 10 minutes' time, all for women's football, just because by popular demand, it's not at all, but I was meant to be doing it. It's going to be a double whammy, not of shows, but of hosting now. So this was a nice little appetizer. We're going to go over there. We're going to talk about officials versus technology, right? Because it's been going off this weekend. People are annoyed. So do we want it? Do you want technology in the women's game? Come over and let us know. We're going to talk a little bit about the championship because we've got some people that are going to be coming up, which is great news, and some going down, which is less great news. And if there's a little bit of time at the end, we're going to have a literal ask what you want. Talk to the panel. Ask them anything you like. So that's where we're going to be. Us, when we're going to be back. If only Connor was here. You're playing Saturday or Sunday, Jess? It's Sunday, isn't it?
Yes, it is Sunday. Away at Leicester.
Friday. There we go. So Friday we'll be back to preview Leicester. I say we, could just be me. Depends what's going on with Connor. Perhaps he should just get like a Wi-Fi aerial in the quiff, like hidden.
Do you know what you should get? Like one of those. You should make one of those tinfoil hats, but a tinfoil quiff. Maybe I'll make that for him. I'll take it when I don't know when I'm seeing him next. Potentially Wembley. So I'll carry it on the train with me, and I will give it to him like a women's football crown, an all for United women's crown.
Excellent. Just to say, Connor, absolutely know that. Wouldn't be any fun. Do bring this. Bring this to Liverpool is what I'm reading there.
I have some spare tin foil. I'm going to go make it in a minute, I think.
Love it. That's what I like to hear. So good stuff. So we're going to get Connor and Ariel so that he can come back because, as Annabelle said, he is the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time. And we do want him here. You guys have been brilliant. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you to everybody watching here. 10 minutes time, all for women's football. If not, we'll see you on Friday. Good night, all.